Welcome back to Tabletop Salt. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to look at factions that need expanded. Now, one thing I'd say in this one is that just about everyone can try and justify their favourite faction and to say, yeah, my faction, this one I really play. I don't play it too often, but I really do like them. They need more units, and yeah, that can happen. So please accept that some of these are personal bias, that they're factions I do play, some I don't play. But generally I'm looking at them and saying, well, do they have enough data sheets and unit variety? Do they cover different battlefield roles? Generally I just find that their range may be lacking in some way, either in creativity or actual use. So yeah, let's have a look at these factions. Let's start off with a faction I do play in the Thousand Sons. So I'm going to speak a little bit about their strengths first, the strength of the range. So they have an okay selection of HQ units. You do have Ahriman, a very strong HQ choice. Plenty of Psychers, a Demon Prince and the Infernal Master, so there is a bit of variety when it comes to their HQ choices. They do have some strong small arms fire and maybe some mid-range fire in their Rubric Marines and their Scarab Occult. And Tzankors bring a bit of variety to the force. It does give them a cheap squad, and they also have a sorcerer and a fast unit to it. So there's a wee bit of variety there as well, but generally when it comes to rubrics, there are some quite nice stuff there. Now the ideas that they really need to expand upon is maybe looking a bit into Forge World for this one. So you have dual wielding, prospering, Kael'Pesh models for the Thousand Sons in their 30k, and having them on rubrics might be quite cool as well. Now a lot of people might be saying, oh no, rubrics should always be ranged. Well, I disagree on that one. I think having them as dual wielding as well might be quite cool. And also having some heavy weapon units as well, maybe something, you know, similar to Havoc's but with rubrics, wouldn't go amiss either. They do sometimes lack a wee bit in terms of armour piercing weapons, though theirs generally is just throw mortal wounds at stuff. I think that'd be quite nice. Secondly, we do have the Dreadnoughts in Forge World as well, and I'm truly surprised that Games Workshop haven't just given these rules to be used in 40k. Some of those Dreadnoughts really would work quite well, and I would certainly buy one or two of them if that was the case. But at the moment they have not been added, so I haven't done so. But yeah, I really think as a quick fix, that would do quite well. The last one is Rubric Knights. Now these would be rubrics on discs of Tzeentch with halberds and shields. Now I've completely taken this from Total War, and I absolutely love the unit, I love the aesthetic of them, and maybe they do work better in Age of Sigmar. But you know what? It's a cool idea, and so we just need some rubrics. Now they don't need to be sorcerers, but maybe they should be, and they zip around with these halberds and shields, and it'd be a good fast unit that are rubrics in case you're not a fan of Tzankors. And I think you could find a way to make it work well. I mean, you have the sorcerers already riding around on discs, so why not something else on top of it? That'd be quite cool. So yeah, that'd be some thoughts for 1000 Sons. Next up, we're going to look at Chaos Daemons, and this is a force that I find really strange in its unit selection and the options that you have for you. So in strengths of the range, they do have a very heavy HQ section, which you can look as both a positive and a negative. The Greater Demon models are all up to date now, and they look fantastic. They make great centerpiece models. I remember the old ones, yeah, they are huge improvements, there's no doubt about that. The various different gods can make a force seem like a colourful tide of combat to unleash on your enemies, which is really cool. Now in the game, that was quite difficult to do in the past. Maybe a bit better now, but generally that's more of a gameplay side. I'm more looking at these as in terms of the models and the range we've got. And when it comes to Chaos Daemons, I do really feel it is a really strange range. So firstly, the faction really needs to have a bit of variety in each god's troop choice. Most of them either have, I think some of them have one choice, some have two. And generally they've only got one piece of war gear on each of them. Now if that troop choice had a series of different war gear that made them fill different roles, that would be okay, but they don't. And I just feel when it comes to the troop choices then, if they're not to have different models, then different war gear so they can do something different from each other really seems kind of essential. It gets a bit boring just having 30 blood letters, 30 blood letters, 30 blood letters all set the same, though I don't think cords are as useful as they used to be now. I'd like a little bit of variety there. I think they really don't have a very good job at getting medium demons. Now, you've got something in terms of the Beast and Nurgle. I don't think it's nearly as big as it could be, but I really want to see bigger, bulkier demons. These are demons. There should be a lot of imagination in what you could achieve with them. So something that is between their troops, between their small HQs, up to their greater demons, something just bigger, bulkier might be a really good option. Maybe not in the case of Slaanesh, but I suppose you've also got the Blood Crushers, but that's demons, small demons riding mechanical vehicles. I just feel there should be, certainly in the case of Khorne, bigger, bulkier, medium demon, and that could come in a unit of 3. That'd be really quite cool. Possibly have more units like Soul Grinders, where they're actually kind of neutral, and then you customise them to become sort of like the gods specifically should be. I think that might be quite a good option as well. And then Demon Gates. Now, I know fortifications are not popular, but some kind of thing that works a little bit like the Eldari Gates they've got for them, the Wraith Gates. Just something that, you know, could be different, and maybe it moves a bit like the Necron fortifications. Possibly you could have Scar Dice reintroduced for that these gates may move across the field, and they either bring in new units or they replenish units when they're nearby. That might be quite good as well. But really, I see the Chaos Demons as there's a huge amount of creativity that could come with Chaos Demons in terms of size, bulkiness, what the units could and can't do, and I just feel they haven't reached their full potential yet. They've really managed to nail the greater demons, Be'lakor as well, they've done really fantastic at that, but when it comes to the smaller, the things that you're going to have many of on the field, they are just really lacking. On to the Custodes, which is probably the faction out of all of these that I do play the most. So, in terms of the strength of the range, they are keeping Forge World afloat, I guess. I mean, yeah, half their force really is behind Forge World. They have a nice range of combat units. They do cover very similar roles though. You've got your foot troops and your guards and your Larius, and then you have the speed with the bikes and the jump troops. There is a bit of variety there, though they sometimes feel a little bit samey. And I guess they're still trying to make Land Raiders relevant, so that's a thing. Now, the ideas for the additions is that simply, look, give us at least 1 or 2 plastic of the Forge World units. Now, they've now got plastic Leviathans. The whole community seem to be very happy with that. Just 1 of the Forge World Custodes Dreadnoughts. Just 1. Ideally all of them. But really they are staples within the Custodes force now, and it really feels that if you're just playing a plastic range over the Forge World range as well, you are really playing with one hand tied behind your back. And so that having that option within a plastic range really would go quite well. In terms of a new unit, I would maybe suggest like a heavily armoured range unit. Think of 3 Custodes with a variety of ranged war gear, and they're basically there to level small settlements. Just big armour, big weapons that they either teleport in or something, and they reinforce in an area, and they just absolutely lay down firepower, unbelievable carnage. And I suppose a lot of people go, oh, but Custodes are martial combat and everything, but Custodes tend to fill a lot of different roles. They're diplomats, they can be assassins, and I suppose being demolition experts couldn't be far from their field either. So I think that would be a really cool option as well. I'd love to see these really massive Custodes with huge amount of war gear that would really just add a bit of variety to the force than just combat. Expansion to the range of Sister of Silence, though some people don't really care for the Sister of Silence as much, and that could just be that they are really into Custodes, or because there is a lack of variety with them. I think if they really want to have the Sister of Silence and Talons of their Emperor in that sort of format, then yeah, they really need to expand on that in just about every way possible. So yeah, that would be an easy area to add a bit more use to them as well. And I think a Master of Arms character designed to improve the efficiency of custodial weapons. So we have seen that maybe their damage has not been so good with some of their weapons. Their AP is pretty good, I have to say. But just something to give a bit more different buffs to the characters rather than rerolls or what you get with the standard. Just like a Master of Arms who's there to inspect the weapons of the Force, make sure they are at top efficiency, and that's kind of their role. I think would be a cool character to add as well. And I'm going to sort of cheat with the next one, and I'm going to speak about Ynnari, Harlequins and Corsairs, but I guess that they're all kind of in one book now, which is a real shame. So the strengths of range is that they offered something beyond Eldari, you know, rather than just taking craft order to carry, there was something different, and it was long requested that we had something beyond just the standard 2 Ynnari, and they started this process, but maybe they haven't quite finished it. And Harlequins and Corsairs especially do have distinctions in their range that makes them feel different from the slowly decaying craft worlds or the debauched Drukhari. However, they just don't seem to be expanded on very well or nearly at all since inception. So ideas for the future: Harlequins are the likely obvious faction to be expanded upon. Possibly the hardest is the argument of lore versus gameplay, and although their theatrical nature makes them seem like they should just be a combat force, theatre does involve lighting and music, and this could be a base for a whole bunch of ranged weapons or different options. You know, Emperor's Children, they don't need to be the only ones that weaponize music, the Harlequins can as well. Along with light, I think there's plenty of options here. Although they are the theatrical sort of 40k force, I think there's sort of plenty of options to bring out something different. Corsairs could be expanded upon. I'd say the beginning part would be their own vehicles, which could just be upgrade kits to some of the other Ynnari vehicles. Now they are pirates, and I suppose with raiders that makes it quite difficult, because raiders quite frankly would suit them quite well, but they're maybe a little bit too Drukhari themed for really Corsairs, because Corsairs do still sort of follow the format when it comes to craft world in essence, in a way. So yeah, it's a bit more of an unusual one on that one, but I love it because who doesn't love pirates? And then Ynnari is a difficult one as they're made up of other factions, however a few individual units would not go amiss. Think of units that are really about this rebirth, the death, rebirth idea would be quite cool, but really Ynnari is a sort of amalgamation of the other Ynnari races, and again that's quite cool, but I do feel they need something really beyond that to bring them about. They started out strong with their 3 characters and there was a lot of promise in that, and they just feel now, it's been I think over 5 years now or close to it, they just haven't been expanded upon. And when you've got this incarnate of death and I suppose rebirth in a way, they really feel like this should have been something different, the start of something different for Ynnari, and none of these have really been explored. All of them really could be done with a little bit of exploration and creativity to bring something different out with the craft world or Drukhari options. And then finally, surprise! Space Marines, which many people go in, yeah, that is a faction that does not need expanded upon, but I'd argue it's certainly a faction that maybe needs a clean-up, and there are certain things that do need to be expanded upon, and specifically that is the Legion-specific Marines. You're talking your Blood Angels, your Dark Angels, and your Space Wolves. Now, one thing, I am not a Space Marine player, I'm a Chaos Space Marine player, so take this with a pinch of salt. There may be Marine players who are absolutely steadfast against Primaris Marines, and okay, I feel you on that one, but you know, I don't see them going anywhere at the moment, but I suppose they did bring back the old world, or planning to anyway, so you never know about the future. But I do think that on that side we do need to speak about what we'd want to do with these iconic units, because I really feel that something needs to be done, and Black Templars did set the way because they got their iconic units kind of updated. So what are we going to look at when it comes to the other Space Marine legions? So the strengths of the range is that, let's face it, Space Marines have a huge range of units to choose from, possibly way too many. That cleanup could come in different ways, and I've heard a few rumours at the moment. Legion specific units are iconic. Death Company, Ravenwing, Wolfen all bring individuality to the legions themselves. However, the quality of the miniatures are beginning to make them feel dated, especially when you look at the new scale of some of the models. Some of them just seem a lot smaller than what the scale of models are today. Now, what are my ideas for additions? The obvious answer is to update the previous models, which some people are going to be hesitant about because they're versions of Primaris Marines. However, Primaris Marines are just Space Marines. That is it. Controversial thing to say, people don't like to hear it, but they're not really going away, or at least they're not going away yet. So I feel that if you are going to get an update like the Black Templars, they're going to be Primaris. So when it comes to Blood Angels, the Sanguinary Guard are the unit I'd update. After Devastation, during the sort of moving on to the opening of the Eye of Terror and all that event, I believe that there was so few Sanguinary Guard left that they did actually take Primaris into their ranks. Correct me if I'm wrong on that lore part, but it kind of makes sense when they almost got absolutely devastated. They were getting refilled by Primaris. Dark Angels, I'd love to see some Deathwing Blade Guard with cloaks, halberds and shields. Now I'm a big fan of halberds and shields, so that's maybe my bias in that, but I also like units with cloaks as well. If I was to play Space Marines, Dark Angels is certainly one I'd play because, you know, I'm a Chaos fan as well. Space Wolves, I'd probably go with an upgrade to the Primaris Thunderwolf Cavalry, with the possibility of having spear options, because I quite like the idea that if they are going to come along, the hammers are cool on Thunderwolf, but I think having spears on them would be a better option, but that's just me. I just feel this is the areas that if we are going to see a modernisation of the Legion specific Marines, which I think is essential to really make new players and old players really feel like these legions are unique to the standard ones, they need to start getting models that do reflect that. And I believe that might be coming sooner rather than later, because we did see it with the Black Templars. It feels like it's only a matter of when, not if, when it comes to these future Legion specific Marines. Now, is everyone going to be a fan? Probably not. But it is going to be the way future, and I really hope that the models are absolutely fantastic. When, or I suppose I could say if, but I think it's going to be when they come out. And that is it for my thoughts on factions that need expanded. Now, don't get me wrong, there's actually a few other factions I do believe as well. For instance, League of Votann, yeah, they've got some good units there, and I actually believe they cover a wide variety of areas, but there is a few of them there that, yeah, they could do with maybe an aircraft or something there as well. But generally, I wanted to keep it to certain factions. I always come to my mind that go, yeah, there's just something lacking here that just doesn't feel right. I didn't want to really focus on updating units. I suppose I did with the Legion specific Marines, but I really wanted to look at the ranges and say, look, there's something lacking here and something could really do to make them feel more exciting. So thanks again for listening. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Let me know what factions you think need expanded upon, because I genuinely feel, well, you could really actually mention something about each individual faction. You might have your preferences towards one that might make you biased as well. I've certainly got my biases to a few factions as well, and I tried to avoid that as best as possible. But yeah, I'd love to hear what people's thoughts on that. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.